Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another episode of Kast. And today's episode is very special. We have with us Alex and Steve from Airship Syndicate. I can't remember last names because I'm terrible. Actually, no, I do remember. It's Alex Campbell and Steve Madureira, right? Mm-hmm. Is that how I pronounce your name?
You even said it right, I think.
Madureira, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, because I'm Portuguese.
Yeah, your descent.
It's Madureira in Portuguese.
Yes!
Madureira.
Yes, yeah. Portugal, because I'm Portuguese as well.
Yeah, awesome. Falas português?
Claro que sim.
Yeah. Eu falo só pouco.
He's saying he only speaks a little bit of Portuguese, but yeah, that's actually funny. I wasn't aware that you and Joe are actually of Portuguese descent, which was interesting. Because I was talking to Alex, and I was like, that last name almost sounds Portuguese, and he was like, well.
Yeah, I haven't seen it as much, but it's got the Ada at the end.
Yeah.
So Pereira.
Yeah, Freire is actually my mother's maiden name, so I also have that in my name.
That's 50-50 chance that I'd get it.
Campbell, obviously, the most ancestral family from Portuguese as well.
Yeah.
Yes, in our chicken noodle soup empire from Portuguese, it's
So you guys should already be familiar with Alex Campbell. He's the community manager for Wayfinder over there at Airship Syndicate. And Steve, why don't you tell us what you do over there?
Sure. I'm the game director on Wayfinder. One of the co-founders of Airship. Started up with Joe and Ryan and Chris back in the day.
The first
it's been a journey, yeah.
The first game that you guys did, was that the one game that I always remember is Battle Chasers Night War? Yeah. That was the first game you guys did, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was it was a Kickstarter. So that was our first game.
Both of us have had experience with Kickstarter. They're a joy.
It was an interesting journey. I mean, we wouldn't be here without it, so it worked out really well for us, and super grateful to the community and everything. So
Wayfinder was a very different proposition when you guys got started with it. Initially, I was even hesitant to know if it was going to be something that I was going to be into. The thing that kind of drew me to it was actually the very first presentation. I don't know if it was the first presentation you guys did, but it was the first one that I watched where you debuted the anime for Venomous, if I remember correctly, because I hadn't planned on whether or not I was going to cover Wayfinder. I was like, okay, I'll just co-stream this event and then I'll figure out if this is something that I want to check out. And it was just really interesting to see that presentation. I was like, oh, this actually looks really fun. I like the art style. I like what the gameplay is looking like. I like the interactions that the team is having. I thought it was funny because Alex was like, oh yeah, and feel free to reach out to me on Discord. I was like, I'm going to put that to the test right now. It was pretty much after the show. I was like, hey, Alex, I'd like to invite you to do a podcast. Some funny stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Grendel teaser?
I think I've seen the Grendel teaser. You guys released that a while ago, right?
Yeah, it's at TGS. So the full one will be coming soon.
Yes.
I am very excited for people to see it because it's amazing.
We did it's actually fun. We're right next to a movie theater out here, and one of the kind of end-of-year events was getting to see the full thing, and it was a surprise to the whole team. So we went over, we were going to go watch a movie, and then they played the whole anime kind of release on the big movie screen, and it was like, holy crap.
Yeah. So you've already gotten to see the full anime, but we haven't gotten to see it. I liked the Venomous one that you guys did a full anime for that one. That one was really cool.
This one is...
Go ahead.
Really good. Yeah.
a little biased.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
I'm
a fan of Joaquim dos Santos, who's also Portuguese.
Yeah.
But yeah, he worked on Korra and Spider-Verse, and just a big fan. So it's awesome having him work with us, and it turned out amazing. So
hopefully it gets the hype up, so we'll see.
When is that particular anime coming out?
There
was okay.
We haven't officially revealed yet, but it's
Grendel's a new character, so when it comes out, you can imagine it's going to be around that time.
Yes.
So
it's just I haven't seen any of the new coverage or anything on some of the changes you guys are doing because I wanted to come into this fresh, so I wasn't aware if you had announced it or not. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
But
not yet, but it's coming for sure.
So you guys started Wayfinder, and the initial business model was kind of like it was almost like Warframe in a lot of ways. Which I'm gonna be honest, I am not the biggest fan. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Warframe business model. It is their choice. It's just as a player, it is not something that is as appealing to me because usually I like to choose one character and then play that one character until the end of days. So when Warframe came out, I played Rhino, I maxed out Rhino, and then, it came to the point where it was like, okay, now we expect you to play the other ones. And I was like, well, I don't want to. I just want to play Rhino forever. Right? And so, but with Wayfinder, the interesting thing was that I actually liked a lot of the characters. So I'm much more of a Wingrave guy because I like tanking and all of that stuff. Wingrave's a badass. But
Good
then I
choice.
also, oh, wow, you don't like Wingrave?
Oh, I said good choice.
Okay.
I do like Wingrave. Yeah,
It's not Nis, but
I actually like all the characters. It's hard for me to like pick one, but Wingrave is super solid. He's old reliable for me. Like,
I mean, it's like almost easy mode though.
he's
He's got heals.
good.
He's tanky, he can punch.
we're trying to make everybody OP. So we buffed a lot of. He actually got some buffs too. So he's
Good.
going to be
That's
even
what I like
stronger
to hear.
than before.
Gosh. Yeah,
But yeah,
we'll
with-
dive into the patch notes here later, but it's been a lot.
with the Wayfinders, it was like I found that I like Wingrave, I like Silo, I like Venomous. That was already like 3 characters that I was having a lot of fun with, and I was also building the other one. So what I found is that I really like those characters, but at the same time, the Warframe business model was always something that was kind of like in the back of my mind. That's one of the things that is changing, and we'll get into the weeds with that, but. I'd like to first talk a little bit about the launch. You guys struggled a little bit on launch, and it was interesting because I remember Alex sending me over a screen grab of like, "Hey, we're number 3 on Steam. We didn't really expect this. Like, what happened there?"
Yeah, that was a dramatic week, let's say the least.
Yeah.
The memes are out there. The Wayfinder,
Yeah.
the please wait, and yeah, I mean there were some people. I think we got up to almost like 80,000 people waiting in line, and then as soon as they get in line, they had a pretty high chance of getting kicked right out. to the
Yeah,
end
it
of
was
the
pretty
queue.
terrible.
It was brutal. It was brutal. I think we were getting I was getting over probably close to 1,000 DMs a day, and I was working all day, all night, just trying to beat the cons. Like, hold in there, guys. And
Somebody wished
it was
on a
fun.
monkey paw and was like, let's have a lot of people.
Yeah,
and then
right.
it's like, oh, but no one could play. So that's terrible. So now more people are just mad right now. So it was.
So
yeah,
what
it
was
wasn't great.
like your expectations before the game came out? Like, because clearly you weren't expecting as many people. Like, what were kind of your expectations in terms of that?
I mean, that's one thing I think that was awesome with Digital Extremes and the partnership and the publishing is just the ability to get the name out there, drive the hype. They obviously have a really passionate fan base and all the people that were interested in the IP. Maybe not Warframe, but they at least had the recognition and knew that they were a successful free to play model, and it was fair monetization and a lot of good learnings from that. So it was definitely the most ambitious project for the studio. So we didn't really know. We're primarily a single player and a story driven smaller studio. I mean, we're about 80 employees right now, so we're definitely a small fish in a big ocean for this venture. So we didn't know exactly what to expect. Obviously, we had a bit of an indication. We had a few 100,000 wish lists, and they have been growing even from the most recent news, which is scary and exciting. But now we don't have to worry about servers, so that's going to be huge.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen again.
Yes.
It should be impossible.
we got some learnings. We have a little bit of a heads up now. But yeah, so I mean, we didn't know what to expect, but we knew that there were people that were really interested doing, Game Awards and a few other kind of big publicity events. I
Yeah.
think kind of turned some heads and people are excited and like, ooh, what's this? The
It
art
was-
style, I think, has drawn a lot of people. So we didn't really know what to expect, but it was a lot and overbearing. And again, small team, just AJ and I just buckling down in Discord. And it was kind of fun too, though, because there's so many like huge streamers that all of us are just like, we geek out over, and they were streaming it and just literally sitting in the lobby for like 20 hours, just over and over, just like get in for 5 minutes, get booted out, get back in the lobby for like hours. I love you guys, but why are you doing this to yourselves?
It was
We did get it fixed eventually, but some of the damage was done.
Yeah.
And the team's been working super, super hard to get that stability up. But again, I think this day and age especially is that first impression is
that first
super
impression.
important, so.
Yeah, it was, and it was really frustrating for me because I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna beat this queue this time, so I would schedule the live stream. And I would start the live stream. Then, like 20 minutes into the stream, I'd get kicked out, and I was like, "No!" Back to like another
so
8-hour queue. And
I was in your channel.
We were
watching.
watching, we were watching in real time, and there's probably a wave of no's going through the studio when we watched somebody get kicked out. Yeah,
I think one of the
painful.
funniest moments was Towley, a great WoW streamer. We were watching him, and he was getting in as well. And something happened with his account. I can't remember. And we had the creative idea on the fly. And I think we were all a little bit sleep deprived. It was probably, I don't know what time in the morning. 50 cups of coffee later, we were like, you know what? What might fix it if we ban him and then unban him? That'll unlock his account. So we did that live while he's on stream in front of all of like tens of thousands of people, gets banned by the DM. I'm in his chat talking about it. We're all laughing. His chat's exploding. And then we try to unban him and we can't unban him. So it's just completely locked out of the game. You're like, this is perfect. This is exactly the kind of PR event that is going to make everybody excited to come play your game. So yeah, there's the the meme where someone standing like, so banning him didn't work. But yeah, so it was very, very memorable to say the least, and again, a fantastic experience, and it's the best problem to have. But it was a lot. It was a big launch.
It's actually funny because I know Towley in real life. We've actually met before, and we used to work together a while back for TGN and whatnot. We did videos and stuff. I think I was actually one of the people who convinced him to show on camera because he didn't actually used to have a face cam before. But
really,
yeah. I love
So
Towley.
you're the reason for his success.
No, I no, hell no. The reason for Towley's success is his absolute brutal dedication, because like that man streamed his way from, I don't know, I remember him being like at 50 concurrents on Twitch or something like that. And his whole thing was like, no, I'm going to go live every day. He would just every day go live. Boom, boom. Just put in the hard work. He just grinded himself out. So like the only person responsible for Towley's success is Roberto himself. Yeah. Like that's just the way that it is. But it was funny because during the launch, because of the queues, he was actually reacting to the podcast that we did. I remember that part.
It all comes full circle. I remember actually, I was watching him watch you while in stream, and then you just like tap back and forth, and that was the case for all of it. So it was a big community event. I mean, we succeeded in that MMO aspect of just bringing the world together, just not inside the game. It's just
But I think that what ends up bringing a lot of people to Wayfinder was definitely the art style, the animations, which were really, really good, like all around. In my opinion, that art style completely sold me personally. And then a big thing also is animations. Now, like the animations on this game are also really, really good. I really like it. But another thing was also it had a lot of gameplay depth. And I thought it was funny because a lot of people would watch some of the early gameplay of Wayfinder, and they would just come back in the comment section and go like, what's so special about it? You press your skills when they come off a cooldown, like that's it. And I was like, no, you're so wrong.
I mean, you do press them when they come off cooldown. They're not technically wrong. It's just there's a little bit more to it. But you got to feel
there's way more to it. Yeah. Like in my opinion, like it just with Windgrave alone, you have this stuff where when you finish his combo, it refreshes I think it was the circular skill. I don't know because I haven't played in a couple of months, and I also remember that with the guns, you had to set up the weak spot, and then you shoot the weak spot, and that charges up the gun skills and all of that stuff. There's a lot more to it than just hitting the skills when they come off a cooldown and whatnot. So yeah,
it's definitely not tab targeting for
yeah.
Sure. And the team, I think, found that really nice balance of approachability, not quite as punishing in the tight windows as like a Dark Souls or anything that with the iframes, but there are the iframes, just like the fluid action combat. And I mean, that was the beautiful thing. You talk about the bad launch. As far as like the servers and the queues and the wait times and the connectivity issues,
yeah,
we're here to own that. But the gameplay, overall, that was what really motivated the team. People who got into the game, and that's why they queued back up to get back into it, is because that first impression of just like actually getting to play a little bit, like that got them their teeth sunk in. They're like, all right, I want to get back in and try it out. And that was overall all of the reviews and the comments and stuff you were saying about people like actually trying the gameplay had a really, really positive reception. And that was a huge motivating factor. But
yeah. For the few seconds we saw people play and enjoy it, it was worth it.
Yeah.
on that launch day. One of the things that that I'm actually really excited about is we added difficulties that you can change anytime. So, because one of the tricky things to balance for like a game like, hey, we want it to be accessible for people that aren't great at action games. We want, people that are really into action games to not be trivial and then fall asleep. So we actually have 4 difficulties now. So from story, normal, challenging, and heroic, and it's hard on heroic. So like you actually it's very different experience. So you can kind of cater it to however you want to play. I'm going to be playing on heroic for sure. That's like where it's at. Yeah. It's actually, you actually have to really care about all of your gear and your build. Like it mattered. You can't just like randomly equip stuff and then just go face roll something. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. And then story mode, for people that just like, hey, I don't play a lot of action games. I just want to, play and have fun. Yeah. You can just turn to story mode and, it's a lot more accessible. You can, if you don't dodge everything, that's okay. You don't need to play perfectly. And so it's something there for everybody. And it makes me happy because we didn't in Battle Chasers, we didn't have difficulties, and it was always feedback was like, it's way too easy, and then others are like, it's impossible. It's like, how do we need to be in the middle somewhere so that no one's happy, but now everyone could be happy. Just pick the difficulty.
It was cool how that kind of happened organically too, because when we decided that we were going to do the transition, that wasn't immediately okay, we got to do this part, but it was just as we were playing it, we were realizing, hey, this might be an option now. Yeah. And then just getting to fine tune that and stuff was
so cool. When it was live service, difficulty doesn't really work as well, because you're what difficulty are you playing on? You're playing with lots of people in a live game. They can drop in and out, and what's the difficulty going to be? But with that gone, it's you're just playing your own game.
You're free to do a lot more.
Yeah.
And then it does work in co-op too. If somebody hops in, it'll be the host is in control.
Mm-hmm. Host chooses difficulty. Yeah. I'll definitely want to talk more about difficulty, but I wanted to address just a couple more things. So
yeah, of course.
One of the important things that I felt happened right at the start, because you guys were very quick responding when the game was having problems, and I feel like it's one of the things that ever since you've done this change, I've seen a lot of feedback from a lot of people about it was supposed to be an MMO and all of this. One of the things that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about was that when this stuff happened and you had the queues and you had all of these problems, you were very quick at coming out, okay, listen, we understand there were problems. We're going to make it up to you. Here's this thing. And I remember that if you did the math, it would add up to I think it was $28 worth of compensation, give or take, in terms of here's a Wayfinder token, here's this amount of rune silver, and there was something else that I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, huh. So you could have bought the most basic version of the game, which was $20 if I remember, and then you compensated players for hey, listen, here's $28 worth of digital goods to compensate for all of this mess up. There were messages on your own Discord promoted by your own team where they were saying hey, look, we understand there were problems. If you weren't able, if you have the game and you spent more than 2 hours in queue, you haven't gotten to play, here's how you can go to Steam and ask for a refund even past the 2 hours. Here's what you got to do to figure it out. And I thought it was really cool to see at least the team being as front-facing about it as they've been. And even recently, I seem to remember that Asmongold was talking about on this stream, and I think it was AJ that just jumped in impromptu and hey, look, here's what happened. Here's very front-facing, very transparent, and very much, thinking about the players, which I was like, okay, this is actually at least a good thing that we're seeing from the team, despite all the problems that we're having. Because so often you see even in the big AAA space, like, people will be like, hey, you didn't get to play the first week. That's too bad. Sucks to be you. Good luck next time. And there's no compensation. There's nothing. So I was very impressed with that. And I also wanted to bring that up. I think it's an important point.
Yeah, I mean, one of the nice things about being a smaller studio, and one of the things that I respect about this team and love this team so much for, is just the freedom to be ourselves. I know when companies get bigger, I've worked in corporate America, I've worked in all sorts of things. And once you get to a certain size, like, you're kind of always just scared about the people above you, you have kind of micromanaging, and you have to be very scripted and stuff like that. And AJ and I are both, everybody here is like a huge nerd. We've all been playing the games. We've seen what's been going on in the industry. And like, we just were like, if I was in the situation of these players, well, how would I want to be treated? How would I want to interact with the studio? And that's like our guiding principle, is just like, what do you want to do? So and people are putting a ton of time, putting a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and like, there's so many games and things out there that they could be spending their time for. So, anything that we can do to make sure that they're having that is good of an experience in a bad situation is possible. Like, we're going to do that, and it's going to win out in the long run. Again, there can be short-term stuff, but if you treat people right, and that's how you get people come back, versus just they're never going to come back to you at all. So
we're making games so that people can enjoy playing them. If they're having a crappy time, we failed. So that we want to make sure that people are having as good of a time as possible, and we all play games. We understand launches can be rocky and they can suck, and it sucks. And we try and do what we can to ease it a bit for people when we can.
Yeah.
So you guys are making a massive change. I believe the update is called Wayfinder Echoes. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right.
So with Wayfinder Echoes, I just, because like I saw the tweet. I think I saw it within 20 minutes of it being out, and I was instantly messaging Alex, oh my God, why don't you tell me anything? It's like, I wanted to know more, because like, I've been
following. Go dark for a while.
Yeah. I've been following Wayfinder, and I put in over 150 hours, I think, or whatever. It was me and a couple of friends were just like playing, grinding every night. I grinded Talon of Pyre, and then I would keep logging in and out, trying to get Talon of Pyre to make all of the weapons and all of that. But so, I put a bunch of hours, and then I was like, I'm going to take a break while they figure things out and what they're doing and with it. But I was always kind of like rooting for it, because I really like the art style, I like the gameplay. I think the game's a ton of fun. And with this change, one of the first things was like, okay, it's not going to be a live service anymore. And I see that as a massive win for me. And this is very important to call out, that this is very much a me thing. There's going to be people that will see it completely different. I understand. But to me, it's like, I always prefer games that have 3 to 4 player co-op, so that I can go play it with my friends, and I don't have to worry about this big overarching community with FOMO and all of this other stuff. I'll play those games as well, which was one of the things that I was doing with Wayfinder, but I much prefer the other model. So for me, this was a massive win, but I've also seen that some people, they weren't as receptive. They're like, oh, we wanted an MMO when we're not getting an MMO. So can you tell us more about that transition?
Yeah.
Like, what was that like?
So again, like, trying to, like, how do we make as many people happy as possible, including us? So when Digital Extremes shut down their publishing branch, and basically were like, hey, we're on our own now, like, we had to evaluate our options and quickly get over the fact this sucks, woe is me. And it's like, okay, now what do we do about it? Even just throughout, it's hard making games. Like, we've shipped now like 4 games or we will it soon, like 4 games in like 10 years, which is nuts in this industry. Like, and nothing's ever gone according to plan. Like, that never happens. So, one of the things that we learned early is, like, we have to be able to react to things, and like be adaptive, and just problem solve, and like roll with the punches. We took a lot of hits, like, throughout the years, like making the best of every situation. And so this is another one that's like, okay, we can't just let the game die like that. Like, there's so much potential there. Like, it's gone so far, and like it can't die. So it's like, what can we do? And like what if it was just like you buy it once and you just play it, and it's like, how the hell are we going to turn
A
the
live
game
service
into that.
game.
It's so different.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, let's just start thinking about it and like going down, like we can convert this. And then very quickly after, it's like, holy cow, this game is way cooler. Like I much rather play this. And feedback we've gotten has been the same. Like people that have, played it, like testers, a few people that got a sneak peek, like ourselves, like playing the game, like it's just way more fun. So it's like, it's the silver lining is the game's actually way cooler and I enjoy it a lot more playing it. And I think a lot of people, like you will enjoy it a lot. And like the alternative it wasn't really like keep it live service or make it single, like single player and co-op off, not offline, but
Peer-to-peer.
yeah,
Peer-to-peer
peer-to-peer
co-op.
or it's gone forever and no one gets to play it in any form. So I think that
we tried to find a third party. There's 3, like straight up. We found out the news basically the same time as I think some people in the studio probably learned from Polygon and the other publications sooner than we did. But it was just like, okay, well, hey, our leadership came down and like told us as soon as they knew as well, and it's like, it's still gonna be around. We're still gonna make this happen. We're gonna keep looking for new publishers. We're gonna try to invest that, but just everybody sees what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
It's brutal out there.
Yeah,
Like,
we were
it is
basically planning
brutal.
for both.
Yeah.
And as we basically had the choice of we can start thinking about converting it, and while we're looking to get a partner to keep it up and running, if we wait until we find out we can't get a partner, it's too late. Like we wasted all that time. So we were kind of like figuring out both at the same time. We went through a lot of planning because we couldn't really just mess around and be like, oh, well, what if we do this? We had to have a very like specific plan, like in a short time. So another aspect of it was we didn't get money from the sales and everything. So this was all we were putting in our own money to like extend, like how much are we willing to put in so that we can get players something that they can stick around and play with. Like it wasn't like, oh, we'll take all that revenue we got and put that towards converting it and then just walk away with all of those profits. We didn't get any profits. So we like as soon as we shifted over, the details, the fine details are all specific, but the game was expensive to make. So like it's not like Did Extremes didn't like break the bank and be like, yeah, we're out of here. We made so much money. That's not the case. It sucks for everybody.
And there were also a ton of refunds at the launch situation.
Yeah. So it's not like there's some master criminals. Like it was no like, I enjoyed working with DE and everything. It sucks what happened, but it's not like we had like all of this money to be like, oh, well, let's just, cut loose and we'll just, bail away with our money.
I think it's worth. I'm going to give them a shout out. Like, it's for team morale too. Is like our leadership. Joe, Ryan, see, like our leadership at the top. Like they understand we're going to take a hit. Like we are going to have to be buckling down, using the savings from our previous titles, and just try to survive. So they took massive pay cuts. Like I know Nintendo's like the only other example I can think of them. Like,
Satoru Iwata back in the day. Yeah.
So I mean, they led by example. They took their own personal finances into consideration to keep the studio as intact as it possibly could be. They've been super transparent with the whole team, which is super rare in the industry as well.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it really freaking sucks. But we had to lose a dozen really good coworkers and colleagues that like I enjoyed coming in and hanging out and every day. But it's lean times. You gotta figure out what the heck you can do to get the game out there. It was a tough situation, but you make lemonade, right? Like it's so easy just to like crumple, fold, and just like, okay, well, we're on to the next thing. But it's much more rewarding to put in the time, put in the work, make the sacrifice, and give something to the people that did support us. We know it's not what they signed up for. It's not what they expected when we first came out, but it is a better game. Like I will stake everything I own saying that this is a better game. The team has put so much work to make it so.
And for the team too, like, I mean, getting something canceled sucks after you've it's a lot of work to make a game and so much of you goes into it. to just see it like poof away, it's terrible. So we wanted something that people that worked on it can like, be
And-
like, hey, my new kid, let's play this together now. You're old enough. Look,
Man.
I made this, So there's it for the community and for like just for ourselves and our own morale, like getting this thing out the door, and it's just more fun too. So it's I think we made some good lemonade.
I think I prefer a world where there's still a Wayfinder than just like having it canceled, because like I said, I enjoyed the game a lot, and you see it often, like whenever a live service game kind of comes into rough times, a lot of companies are very quick to, well, that's too bad, like everything's canceled, the game's just gone now, goodbye. Like somewhat of an example of that is Anthem, even though the game is still kind of around technically speaking, but EA was very quick to, a couple of months of updates, and it's like, okay, this isn't working out, we're canceling the whole thing, that's too bad, we might do Anthem next, and then a couple of months later it's like, actually, never mind, we're just never gonna touch this game again. And I was like, that sucks, because the gameplay of that game was also really fun, and now apparently it's gonna have no future. At least it seems that Wayfinder is gonna have somewhat of a future. So one of the most obvious questions, I think, instantly becomes like, okay, so what about the players who paid like $150 or whatever was the biggest tier package? Because obviously they're going to be the ones that are going to be they were the most invested in it, and now the product is vastly different than what they were getting. Like what are you guys doing about those players?
Yeah, so we again, like thinking about those players, like our thoughts were, would it be better if the game didn't exist, or if there was something there that they can still play? Because as far as refunds, like we don't have their money to give back. Like it's not like
we never got it.
Yeah, we don't have it. So
that's like digital extremes and servers and all of that stuff. Yeah, I can imagine, because publishing deals and
And as soon as, and like, I think that's another important distinction. Like as soon, like the minute that we had that discretion, and like we could either choose, okay, let's keep up sales so we can actually start.
You guys stopped selling the game.
Yeah, we shut it.
Stopped selling instantaneously.
Yeah, I remember that.
Nobody could purchase this because it wasn't going to be accurate. It wasn't representative of what the plan was at that point. And we're not here to take people's money. We're here to make a fantastic game and give people a fantastic experience. But it doesn't change the fact that people spent a lot of money and they're not getting exactly what they thought they were getting.
And on top of that, what we tried to do was everything that was in the different founders packs that was exclusive is still exclusive. So if you want Heroic Kairos, the only way to get him is if you had gotten the Exalted pack, which isn't for sale anymore. So it's just he's still exclusive.
Basically, Heroic Kairos, nobody can ever get him again besides the people who paid for it. Okay.
Right. Correct. Yeah. And so everything.
So they do have something very unique that nobody else has in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the items. So all the items have been in the packs. Those are exclusive. Everything that was exclusive for those packs is exclusive, and you still get them. But we also wanted to thank the players. Not everybody just supported the game through the founder packs. People bought a lot of money in Rune Silver and the other shops, and like all the items that were MTX are now loot inside the game. So it feels bad for them just to be like, well, I paid all this money, but now everybody has it, and we get that too. So we kind of came up with a cool hybrid scenario. Again, there's only so much that we can do. We're converting into it's a local save file. It's the game that people are going to own. It's not going to be tied to MTX. There is going to be no shop things that we can give like digital money for. We want to have one product that has everything in it, and this is just your world to do with what you want. But we did want to make it something exclusive in there. So if you did purchase Rune Silver, we have 7 different categories of kind of tiers of just different kind of breakdowns of what your total lifetime account wallet. If you ever made any purchases of Rune Silver, you're going to get these founder coins. So those Rune Silver purchases, depending on how much you owned over the lifetime of your live service account, you are going to be getting these exclusive founder coins. And there's a specific NPC shop in Skylight that has 7 different tiers of unique items. That again, there's no other
cosmetic.
way of getting
them. And that includes if your founders pack came with Rune Silver and Wayfinder tokens, those also convert to coins. So based on how much money you had in
we're building out the patch notes, and we're going to be transparent as we can be about it. And I know it's not going to be the perfect solution for everybody, but it's something that we have the power to do. We're game developers. Like, we make the game, and we want to, try to show that we care. We're thinking about the people that did support, they put the time in. Again, there's not much else that we can do. So we can do what we can.
I'm just going to ask this because I know that there's going to be a ton of people that will ask about this, and I already know that there's not going to be a perfect answer to this question because we already said. But like, if some of those players are like, okay, but I want a refund, like, what can they do, if anything? Like, what is there a process in place or anything like that? Again, I'm not putting it on you guys because, like we already said, it's like this stuff. A lot of it is on Digital Extreme side and whatnot, and
So we've been working. Again, like, in the beginning, we had those conversations with Steam. Steam was well aware, like, what the plan was, and especially as we're doing the publisher of record transition and all those details. The fact of the matter is, we were not the publisher of record when any of those sales occurred, so we can't verify if the the ownership and the money. We don't have the money to give back just physically. So I know it's on the Otis. Like, we've never hid away from people wanting to get the information on how they go about getting the refunds. If they reach out, there's plenty of, please, on the Discord, like, guides. There's some people that have been successful with it, some people that haven't been. It seems like it's a bit of a case by case, but it's a matter of going through the first party platform that you made the purchase on. So if you go to Steam and you request the refund and things like that, and
so you guys have like a step-by-step of what people can do to try and get a refund over on your Discord still, I would imagine then?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, again, so
that's kind of the
perfectly
process.
Open. You come in there and ask questions. We'll try to help you out, but our hands are a bit tied. It's just like,
but I just wanted people to be aware of this. Like, hey, look, if you do want to go ahead and try to get a refund, the best way to do it is go through Steam process, whatever. And if you need more help, you can go to the Discord that the team has, the official Wayfinder Discord, and they'll try to help you out there as well. So one of the biggest things for me then is, okay, so now it's going to be a single, it's going to be a single purchase game, which, like I said, for me, that's a big plus. I understand it's not the same for everybody, whatever, but like, what is your plan? Like, are you thinking about doing any type of microtransactions at all for this, or is it like, nope, it's just one price?
No microtransactions. One price.
One price, and is thousands of MTX items that literally I want to do the math. Like, it sounds like a nightmare of a spreadsheet to build.
It was the process was interesting. I mean, so much has changed, but one of the things too is, like, in this process was, like, evaluating a lot of the feedback we got and what we can do about it. Like, we're changing a lot of stuff already, so it's kind of like, well, let's get a lot of this in. One of the big complaints was there's not enough, like, important loot when you loot stuff, and we're like, we want to give away, like, weapons and armor, but those are like, you get them once, it messes with monetization stuff, and now it's like, well, now matter. You have stuff for your house, you just find it, you can explore. There's a bunch more secrets. So, like, exploring the overlands, there's a bunch of, like, one-time chests that you find once to reward, like, finding those nooks and crannies and secrets. There's cosmetic stuff everywhere. The armor, like, they were just styles before, and it's like, well, why not have stats on them? So we a lot of balance stuff has gone in. So now,
that's cool.
A lot. So armor will actually drop, and there's components, and you can equip shoulder pads on Wingrave, and they have stats. So, like, those you find them once and you have them, and they're always useful. They're percentage based
as well. So
you can still transmog. Yeah.
So you get the item with the stats that actually affects your character, and then you also get to unlock all the different transmogs to make your character look.
So
before we jump into loot specifically, because I have a ton of questions about how the new loot's going to work, I wanted to ask, there's going to be a progress reset then, right? Because I think I've read somewhere.
Yeah.
So the basically the progress that we've done up until this point, that's going to be gone, and we're going to start fresh save files everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's a fundamentally different.
It's a different game because of the way it works. I think it makes sense. I just wanted to make sure that was a thing.
Yes, everything will reset, which understandably
that must have been a hard decision to come to.
Yeah, and again, there was kind of like, we have this new thing that we can do, and people are going to be upset that it resets. Will they be more upset if the game is just gone forever? Like that's kind of always our the alternative was
according
never.
to some people, yes.
Yeah.
Which I still don't understand, but they're out there.
But so overall, it's a necessary evil. There were actually, I was surprised a lot more people were excited about the reset than I thought.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Like I'm hyped. I'm ready to jump back in there and go at it because, like I said, I had fun with the game. So.
In Discord with thousands of hours, like asking me to reset their accounts, like prior to this reset, and I'm like, "It's why? It's like a week away." Like no. But yeah, I mean, no. All jokes aside, like it is, we understand the frustration. Like people put thousands of hours into this game, which is amazing. With the fact that there are people who get that much entertainment out of it, and again, especially if they did buy the founders packs, we realize it's a lot of money, but we do think. Hopefully you got a good experience during the live version of it. You can still do that. Even if you're on a PlayStation console, like PS4, PS5, until it's released on PS4, PS5, like they can still keep playing live and everything. So we're going to keep those servers up and maintaining. But yeah, it's the save files just would not be compatible. Even if we could put it from a server onto the local machines, it's like apples and oranges. Like it's just not
because the fundamental progression of it, from my understanding, is that it's going to be different. So the previous version of Wayfinder, I mean the current version of Wayfinder that we have today on the 21st of May, it had crossplay and cross save and cross progression. Is that going to be a feature that is going to be going away, or?
Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah, so it'll still be peer-to-peer co-op, and it's actually probably fundamentally easier to actually play with your friends, and that was the way that the vast majority of players that actually played the game, from our data was doing anyway, was either playing solo or they were just playing with some friends and turning matchmaking off. But we do get, people wanting to have matchmaking. We are exploring to see if it is possible because there are some examples of games doing.
I'm not talking about matchmaking. I'm talking specifically about cross save and cross progression. Because I played exactly like what you're saying too. It's like, okay, get a couple of friends, we get our thing going, turn off matchmaking. Even if there's just two of us, it's just going to be two of us. That'd be the way that we played most of the time. But yeah, it's not going to have crossplay or cross save. That's a bit of a bummer. I wish it still did. Yeah.
Yeah, we do too. But yeah, that was another part. It was a benefit working with DE is that was some of their technology, and unfortunately, we had to turn that off even mid live service.
It makes sense. It's like, hey, you're no longer under our wing. You can't use our technology anymore. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it was through a DE account that was basically kind of like branching it between the two. But yeah.
Oh right, I remember because I did the linking. I did the linking on PlayStation 5 because I bought the PS5 version, and it was actually pretty seamless the way that it worked. Because I was like, all my Wayfinders here, everything's working. This is great.
Yeah.
So in the original Wayfinder, you had to unlock Wayfinders. So you would pick your first Wayfinder. I even remember we talked about this, and you're like, your first Wayfinder is going to be important. You have to pick the right one that you're going to like, is going to be playing it for a long time. How does it work now? Can you just create new Wayfinders at launch? Are Wayfinders like a character type thing, or do I have all the Wayfinders in my one character? Like, what's the new structure?
So it's similar to before, but it's way, way easier to unlock, and by playing, you'll get all of them pretty much. So you still have the same 3 starters. You unlock the other 2 starters that you didn't pick, within 15 minutes. You'll have the 3. So your first choice matters for that first intro dungeon that you do that's 5 minutes long. And then after you have all 3, to summon Wayfinders now, rather than it being a giant long crafting journey, you just need to find one single item. You find their summoning stone, and then you just take it to Omen, and you have the character.
That's so much better. Oh my god.
The new character Grendel drops very early. All of them are on. Some of them have another way to find them that's a little more hidden, and then they'll have a drop on the main story path, just killing a boss. If you didn't find them by this point, you'll unlock them now because you kill the boss and you find them. But you can find them sooner. Kairos is lost in the gloom. That's the hint. So you can find him
somewhere in the gloom
in a different way. or at some point you will fight a boss, and if you haven't gotten to Summoner's Stone yet, the boss will drop it, so you'll be able to get it.
Yeah.
And
they drop at the level too.
Yes.
So you don't feel like you have to go back.
So you have like your
quest.
character level basically, and when they drop, they're at your character level.
I think
they have a preset, but it's kind of determined by where you find them.
Okay.
The resonance scrolls are still in game, so you can use.
You
those
do
to
level
level
them
up
differently, separately.
Yes.
Then I mean, so if I swap from Wingrave to Silo, I still have to level up Silo.
Right.
Yeah, but you do have the items, and you'll have even the large resonance scrolls now too. That'll
the pacing of the game is a lot more straight. Like you can play straight, where there's a lot less breaks in the MSQ in the main story progression, where you have to stop and just grind stuff to get enough power. It's paced a lot more where you can play straight through to the end of the story, and then at the post game, that's kind of where like stuff opens up. There's a new Mythic hunts where you can do the bosses they're way tougher. There's a new tier of loot. There's a bunch of new bosses to fight, and like that's where like a lot of your
world bosses. There's a bunch of new world bosses and stuff.
So one of the important things that I'm curious about then is, do we still, because you mentioned there's still heroic Kairos, is that just a cosmetic thing, or do we still have heroic Wayfinders?
So so there's one new heroic Wayfinder that you can unlock by playing the game. I guess we can say who.
Oh, do you?
I'm not good at keeping things secret.
No,
exclusive.
So heroic Nis is actually, you'll be able to unlock heroic Nis, and that's more of an end game thing.
Freaking cool,
so
guys! Oh my!
The way that heroics work now is a lot simpler than it did in live. It's not a separate character; it's just a modifier on your existing character. So if you were to play Nis to level 30 and awaken her a bunch of times, when you get heroic Nis, you don't need to level up a new character from 1 and awaken heroic Nis.
Okay.
It's just your Nis turns heroic, and that gives you the bonus stats. You get an extra rush echo socket. You get the extra cosmetics that you can equip on them.
That's freaking
like
awesome.
So for heroic Kairos, he actually has a new appearance too. So
all of them do. It's crazy because again, we had a backlog of all the stuff that we are going to kind of drip feed in the MTX, and like all the armor sets and personas and everything like that are now just in the game, and there's an insane amount of customers. And I think how many, like, we've added over like 100 dies to all the cosmetics.
Like hundreds of dies. Yeah. So a bunch of dies. There's the dies just work better, I think, than they do in live. There's like there's emissive specific dies.
Oh, that's so good.
A lot of the challenge.
I remember a lot of times I'd be like, oh, I want to have this cool emissive color, and then I put it, it's like, it's so flat. It's matte almost. Yeah. It's not even emissive.
Yeah. So there's more dye. I think the dye channels, we might have more than we did in live.
I think we still just have the 2 customs on there, but again, and like all the weapon skins and stuff.
But you
like
can
that.
dye stuff like hair now too. Like,
nice.
So like what the stuff dyes is different, and every Wayfinder also starts with a bunch of different hairstyles or heads.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you get a little bit of customization on it as well. That's
so we
cool.
still have the style customization is still there. So like for basically you can transmog any component to look however you want, and dyes are still there.
That's actually really massive, because I thought that the thing you guys had with the style, it was really cool for customizing it. But then it was like, I mean, if you don't put money in the MTX, you very rarely get to play around with that system, because I was like, this is so cool. Because, I think on my account, I was entitled to get some stuff because of the package you guys sent me. It was it was the one below the Exalted or whatever
Awaken,
it was.
probably.
I think it was Awaken, yeah. And so in that package, I had some cosmetics, and I was like, oh, I can play around with this for Venomous and whatnot. You could really like mix and match and customize. Oh, I want these pants with this chest and with this thing. And I was like, this is really cool. But like, for instance, I have nothing for Silo, so Silo just has the same armor forever. And there's this really in-depth cosmetic system that is just sitting here doing nothing. And it's cool to know that there's going to be more cosmetic drops, and you're going to just be able to access everything and completely customize your character. Because you could do some really cool stuff with the way that the characters looked and the art style that you have in the game.
Yeah, so you'll be finding armor, which you can equip and actually get stats from, and you get the cosmetic look. As you level up and awaken Wayfinders, you unlock more dyes that are usable on any of your characters. So you might be like, hey, I'm going to level up Silo and see what dyes I get for leveling him up to use on my Kairos if you want. So
how does the awakening system work now? Because that was one of the things that when I was playing, the awakening system wasn't really online yet. And then eventually when the awakening system came online, I remember that I didn't really play during those times, but I remember a friend of mine telling me, man, I grinded for like 6 hours straight. I haven't even gotten to max out my character. This is insane. I was like, oh, that sounds rough.
Yeah. So the awakening, it's similar to how it was before, but it's easier to awaken. Weapons, the weapon essences are gone from the game, so they're way easier to awaken. So the hardest chase item would be like the boss resource, which drops like all the time. So
Talon of Pyre was miserable, I can assure you.
Yeah.
He's actually really easy to fight now. There's actually like a totem that you go in there.
Yeah, you can summon him when you want, and he's been rebalanced because
what a massive
we're
improvement.
not expecting 10 people to fight him. Yeah, and so awakening is basically still like one of the big crafting loops. So like those resources that you're finding will be going towards awakening. That's meant to be something you do like over the
once you're trying to get like
game,
the mythics and stuff like that, that's when those really kind of matter. Like you don't really need to awaken much as you're playing the MSQ, but if you're a player that really wants to do that,
so in the
massive,
end game,
end game and have something to really sink your teeth into, there are systems to support like, why am I doing this? Like you can actually keep getting stronger if you want to.
You can awaken 3 times just in before the mythics, and then to do awakening 4 and 5, it requires you to do mythics. So that's it's more of an end game thing.
But yeah, and again, really a huge lesson from this, and kind of making a return to home as far as just like how the gameplay, making it feel more like an RPG. The grind has been significantly reduced. So like all the crafting resources that you need for the awakening of your weapons, your Wayfinders, they're way easier to acquire. You're going to be getting a lot more of them.
Is it random or is it targeted?
It's still targeted, so you can still go in there and press F, and he'll tell you like, okay, go do this or do this with this imbuement or whatever it might be. But all the items, it's not like before. It was very specific, like you need to go into this dungeon and RNG on RNG, hoping that this event spawns. So you get a chance
I remember
of this item dropping. That has been completely gone away now. It's just like zone specific items. But yeah. We've had these conversations. I know exactly what you're complaining about.
The teeth or whatever it was that you had to go into the mines and you had to have the one event with the thing. Oh my god, that was terrible.
Yeah, the archaic bones.
Archaic bones. That's what it was.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
way easier to get those.
Yeah. So we basically globalize a lot of the resources. So like any event in the mines will give you archaic bones. So you you still will need them, but it's way easier to get. And then we all
drop multiple at a time.
And so you can go to different go to different mines so that you're not stuck grinding the exact same one all the time hoping for.
And then if you have a bunch extra, we also added basically a vendor that can show up in each biome that will trade more cosmetics and dyes and stuff for the surplus.
The game is a loot pinata now. I don't think people realize how many items that we converted from that would have been MTX only. Now we just get to, because the art is super cool and we want people to have them and see them. Now we can just give them to people just by playing the game.
I hope this becomes. I hope this becomes a case study for like how certain live service games would actually be better if they weren't live service.
I don't know if any business would want to copy. That's case study. I would not recommend it, but you make do with what you got.
So the whole heroic thing does make me question one thing, which is, so heroic Wayfinders are more powerful than the standard version of the Wayfinders, right? So then that means that for a majority of players, there's not going to be that much of an incentive to play Kairos. Unless you have
Kairos is still really strong. Yeah. Heroic Kairos is just stronger. I think we did a good job balancing a lot of Wayfinders. There's a lot of buffs and balance tweaks like across the entire game. Am I hitting my mic? Sorry. So like Kairos he's just really good. We buffed AP a lot also, so ability power is a lot more useful. And Kairos is one of the people that works best with ability power because he's got multiple rakes he can get, and like once he gets going, he's pretty.
We changed a couple of abilities too. He's a lot more dynamic too, because like you can actually move with some of his abilities now, so you are like, you know, gliding around combat and, you know, casting your spells and doing like big AoE and then just like your big massive
less rooted
and stuff. It's again, we've taken a look at all the Wayfinders and just trying to make them as fun as they can be. And again, leaning towards more like, let's make everybody OP versus, you know, having to balance for a live service where it's a little bit more
I'm very happy to hear that AP is getting buffed, because I remember that my whole thing was like, oh man, I'm going to make a super max AP Wingrave, and then it was like, this sucks. I need to give him like weapon damage or whatever it was, weapon damage and stuff like that, because AP was not particularly powerful for him.
Yeah.
But that's...
I think across the board AP is buffed, and especially now that you have the whole talent system as well, where you can really be getting a lot of different stats and then just mix them up on the fly, like whatever you need. You're just going to be collecting those points, and you can just respec at any point. That's another thing too. Like in the dungeons before, it was pretty limited as far as like when you could switch your builds up. Now you can do it anytime, any place. Like
inside a dungeon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you can do it in the middle of combat if you want.
Yeah, and if you're playing solo, it actually pauses combat too. So like you can. You know,
I'm gonna
exactly.
In my opinion, I don't know how I feel about swapping builds mid combat. I kind of feel like that's a step that you maybe shouldn't cross. But I mean,
if you're in co-op, it's gonna be, you'll probably die like while in your menu if you're doing it. But on solo, if that's what you're playing a solo experience, like this isn't working out for me, you want to swap it.
Is there like a resource cost associated with respecking?
So respecking your affinities, like there's a small gold cost to get, and when you respec it, like the Gloomstone and stuff that you invested is basically locked into that character. But there's a small resource
but you
cost,
you get it back. Yeah. It's locked into the character, but you get it back.
But just that character, yeah. So you can't you can't respec Wingrave and then use all that Gloomstone in Kairos. But we did we cut the resource cost to like get your affinities up by like half. So
it's way
one of the things that we were seeing too with the new pacing is you know, because you unlock a lot more characters way more quickly, and then people are like, I can't upgrade them because I'm burning through the game, you know, quicker, and I don't have the resources to level up my alts. So like it's actually hard to. So we took a look at, you know, the resource costs and made it so you can play alts and not feel like you have to start over and you just don't want to play any other characters and stuff. So it's a lot more friendly to switch, you know, if you want. I know it's a minor thing, but the UI improvements for those systems have also been so much better. Pretty much every screen in the game's been redone.
Yeah, that's good.
Or updated.
The polish is finally.
Yeah, one of the biggest things is going to be great, the UI updates, a lot of quality of life and usability things. Huge improvements there. Yeah. So weapons. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I can go on.
Keep going.
Different tangents. So weapons no longer level up. They're not like characters. They are just, you'll find a level 7 Tooth and Claw, and it's level 7, and that's how it will be forever. If you awaken Tooth and Claw, any Tooth and Claw you ever find will be awakened. You can find like a level 15 Tooth and Claw. You can, you know, go to the end game vendor and get a level 38 legendary Tooth and Claw. So like the weapons that you find, like they'll have biomes that you're more likely to find them, but you can find weapons throughout the game at different levels. And so one of the cool things about it is that I like, because I like trying a bunch of different stuff, is, you know, before you would have your one weapon and you're using it and you're leveling it up and you find a new weapon, you're like, it's level 1, I don't want to invest, I've already invested so much into this weapon. But now you're playing and you have your level 3 you know, slicer and dicer, and then you get a level 7, you know, Archon's blade, and you're like, well,
how good do you remember
I guess I'll try this out because it's way more powerful. And then you use it and you're like, oh, this is actually cool, I like this ability. And then you you'll be switching weapons often as you play.
And there's a pretty good variety of them too.
There's
so,
a lot
you'll
of
be getting,
weapons, so.
you'll get a couple guns, you'll get like a rune cannon, you'll get like a sword and shield, you get a breaker, you get just like quest rewards as you're going. We've made the quest rewards a lot more meaningful too, because that's
you can get a weapon, a new weapon,
stuff, or summoning stones or whatever it might be. It feels it's a return to being like a traditional, more kind of looter shooter, dungeon crawler RPG experience.
But you won't be using one weapon throughout the entire game because you likely won't find that weapon at every single level. You're going to be like, I'm level 9 now, and I have these 5 different level 9 weapons that I happen to have looted, or like, which one am I going to use of this? And you'll keep.
And there is some randomization to it, but not a ton. So like, there are a certain set, levels that are going to have a certain amount of echo slots, and some of those are locked in, but some of them are randomized. So like, you can get, if you do like having that god roll, if it was like, I really just want to have everything is just an attack type echo, and you find that, and it's a high level, like you can feel like, oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. Or like, I want more of like a balanced one, and you can try to find those as well. But it's not 100% RNG, but there is some RNG elements to the weapon drops as well.
So, if I remember correctly, Tooth and Claw is the sword and shield that has like the saw blade. So I just have to shout out Steve for instantly mentioning the best weapon in the game, because that's the coolest weapon in the game. It's good. Come on, it's a chainsword, dude.
I think it's actually better now since live. I think we fixed some bugs where it doesn't like. I think in live there might have been a bug where it would like hit and like not bounce correctly.
Yes, I can assure you it happened often.
Now too. We buffed a lot of weapon abilities too for underperforming weapons. So like a lot of weapons you might have used before and were like, this isn't that great, like are a lot better now.
It's definitely been erring on the side of bring everything up versus just like bring down. So
I think it's a really cool system, because before, you're like, oh, I want to build this weapon because I think this weapon looks cool. But then at the end, you have to think, okay, but this is going to require a considerable amount of resources and then a considerable amount more resources to level it up. Is this really worth it if this weapon is not good? Now, in my case, I was collecting like all of the sword and shields. I was just like, I'm craft all of them. I don't care. I'm eventually going to craft all sword and shields because that's the weapon that I liked. But sword and shield also just felt very weak compared to other weapons.
We buffed sword and shield a lot also.
Yeah.
The sword and shield is better.
But that system is really cool. But now, so you can get them randomized, and you were talking about echoes, but is it just echoes, or is it also like different stats on the weapon as well? Or is this weapon comes with random echoes?
The stats are fixed. So like you'll always have, this affinity has these 2 stats, and like the stats are fixed. The echoes, I was going to use game terms. The rush and cross type echoes are fixed. So when you get those, if you have one on one weapon, all your weapons are going to have that. Unless you got it through Awakening, then only that one will have it.
Wait. That was too confusing. If you have one on one weapon, what does that mean?
So like, let's say at level 5, all weapons that drop at 5 or above have a cross type echo. Like that's always that you can rely on that being there for every weapon that's 5 or above. That you find as
the slot. The slot you mean, not necessarily the echo
type
itself. Okay,
right. Slot type. Sorry. And then anything that was the attack, guard, or balance echo slots, those are all randomized on weapons. So you might be going through a dungeon, you find the same weapon, 2 or 3 times, or over multiple runs, their slot types might be different. There's also vendors, so you'll be able to buy weapons from Arsenal, not all of them right away.
As you unlock them.
As you unlock them.
Is there different rarities to the weapons, or how does this work?
So the weapon rarities are basically determined by the level. So like level 1 to 14, Tooth and Claw will be green, and 15 to 24 will be blue.
And there's, oh my gosh, it's such a minor thing, but when loot drops now, there's actually like beacons that go up and show the different rarities.
The loot caches actually have the color of the loot.
Oh, what's that? And you gotta go see what it is, and the toast pop ups and stuff like that. So it does add just that like loot explosion.
You were saying that some of them have locked-in echoes. You mean they come with the echoes already placed in?
Sorry, echo slot. The slot
locked
type.
echo
Yeah.
slots. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so you guys still have the echo system like we
Yes,
had.
that's changed
How-
a bunch.
how do-
That's changed
How does
a
that
bunch
work?
also.
The new version, because this is one of the most important things for me. I would
Yes.
always be like, Alex probably has 100 messages from me, and I'm like, dude, I can't with these echoes. I can't. I'm trying to play the game, and the worst part was I was on PlayStation, so there was like some type of loading situation with it, where every time that I'd be scrolling, the game would freeze, and my PlayStation go into airplane mode, and I was like, Alex, please, man.
They're sorting now. They're sorting. You can sort. You can search for whatever type of stat you want. It'll just go to the top.
You
I
can
promise.
mark things as favorite and mark for sell or mark for dust. So it's way easier to dust. We didn't have that in live, right?
No,
Okay.
I don't think
So you can basically go through and like if you have like 8 of the same echo, you can like mark for dust, and then just hit one button and dust all of the ones you marked. So it's way easier to get rid of stuff. Selling and dusting stuff is going to be important for just to have enough
I'm
resources.
assuming
for things.
there's still going to be limited inventory space for echoes, because that was like a
Yes,
huge
but it's
deal.
been expanded. Yeah,
Yeah,
so all item
Or
limits
I
have been
think you
expanded.
could have one of every single echo in the game, and you would not fill up your inventory.
Yeah. It's been expanded a bunch.
And
So
that's a big change too. You probably want to jump into.
which one?
Well, the fact that you only need one echo.
Oh yeah. So going into the echo changes. So one of the I don't know if we had a plan for a really massive overhaul. Like basically, it's more like a catalog.
Yes.
We didn't
Yes!
have, but we didn't get all the way there. So
We
let
got
me-
part way.
But we took so one of the teams that was slammed the most by this change, by like this whole rework, was the UI team, because they busted their butts and like fixed up a lot of screens, there were tons of bug fixes. So it was also a big rework for them, and engineering, as you can imagine, is going to be slammed. So the Echo catalog change was massive. So what we did was find a lot of the good stuff from it and try and take a lot of those good changes to make it work with the system before. So some of the big changes are, which helps with balance a lot, is echoes are unique equipped. So if you equip one of an echo, let's say the bloodletter, you can only have one in your loadout. Period.
So you actually incentivize.
That is
to
good.
collect
That
a
is
bunch
very
of
good.
echoes versus like, this is the one echo, and I'm just only gonna get
so
that one
you don't get
Yeah.
15 bloodletter echoes and then you're done. Like, no, you have bloodletter, you want more weapon power, find another echo that has weapon power.
That is
the
really
echoes.
cool.
Yeah,
There's
actually
over like how many hundreds of there are, so it's cool when you find and I'm like, oh, that one has ability power, sweet.
Yeah, because what happened with me and my friends was like, we were specifically having this discussion probably back in the day where we're going like, oh man, this sucks, because all we do is we just find this one thing that really boosts up our builds, and we just slot that echo into infinity, the rare version, the epic version. It's like all the versions of you'd be going around with white versions. I don't remember if it was bloodletter, but I do remember that name. So it was probably, I even had white blood letters on my thing, because it was like
bloodletter, tiding. I could go through all the popular ones.
so that's one change. The other is the echoes actually drop at the level of the content now. So if you fight a low-level bloodletter, they'll drop a low-level echo. If you fight a high-level bloodletter, they'll drop a high-level version of the echo. So you can still only equip one, so you'll want to equip your best one.
Depending on if you have enough energy for it, whatever it was, because it wasn't always the best thing to get the best one. I'm assuming that's still a thing, right? Capacity and whatnot. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. What's changed about it is echoes can only go into a matching slot type now. There's no cutting the cost in half and equipping in if you equip it in the same slot, you can only equip it in the same slot. So we rebalanced a lot of stuff. So it was just like confusing, because you're looking at your full thing, but that one was slotted in, so the cost is half of what you expect, and like it just made managing them confusing. And it just worked. It's a lot cleaner with the new system. So you can only slot them into a matching slot type. That also means guard echoes are way more useful, because before everyone was just like, I want more offense, and I'm going to put offense in defense slots. and this character sucks because they
have too many
can't get as much
defensive
presence.
stats, yeah.
It's just you're going to want good guard type echoes. You're going to want good balance echoes. You're going to use all of them.
It makes the
rush
inventory
echoes
much easier to manage too.
Rush
because
echoes.
You're only getting those in your list.
Yep. Rush echoes you can only equip in a rush slot, so those slots are very valuable for those.
Yep.
We moved a lot of the because you're going to be swapping weapons so often. Most of your slots are going to be on the character, and weapons have less slots total. So we shifted a lot of that power to the character because you're not going to be swapping characters often. That way, when you get a new weapon, you don't need to be like, oh, I need to equip 10 echoes, and then you swap weapons.
Yeah,
I need to equip 10 echoes again.
So how many echoes will we have per weapon on average?
You can unlock. I'm trying to think because Awakening, the new talent system, lets you get echoes. I think it's like 6.
Yeah, 6, 7
total. That's like throughout. Like it starts.
Once you get
like
the max,
1.
yeah.
Yeah.
And how
and
how does Awakening weapons work? That was another thing that was kind of like a little bit confusing.
So let's say you like Tooth and Claw. So you have level 5 Tooth and Claw, and you awaken it. So now it's got 1 Awakening star. It's more powerful. It's got some more echo budget, and you find a higher level Tooth and Claw. It has 1 star also. So when you
it's
awaken
almost like having
weapon,
a weapon skill tree, basically. Almost.
Yeah.
So you're still gonna have Arsenal. Like you go into Arsenal and Skylight, and then every weapon that you've ever seen drop, you can purchase, and then those will level up as you progress more of the game. So you can roll like, oh, I haven't seen this weapon drop in a while. I really like it. I want to go buy one, but the one I have is like 10 levels too low. You can go purchase one. It'll catch up to whatever level that you want it to be closer to your progress. And then in that menu, you can also select it and do awaken the weapon, and it's going to be the same system as just before.
You'll awaken every instance of that weapon you ever
for the rest
find.
of the game. Every single time that comes,
So later, if you get a legendary Tooth and Claw, it'll already be awakened. You basically
that's
need
so
to do
good.
that once.
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, and the awakening for it is, again, kind of going back into same as Awakening Wayfinders. It's way less, grindy. You'll probably you won't be able to do like 5 stars off the bat for everything.
Yeah, of course.
But like if you play through the game and you really want to have that one weapon fully awakened, you'll probably have enough resources just to do it without having to do too much.
You'll be able to target those resources as well, I would imagine. The resource for awakening the weapons, same way you can target resources for. So how would crafting weapons work? Is that even still a thing, or do you just buy them off of Arsenal as you unlock them?
Yeah, you can find them or you can buy them from vendors, and that's it. Yeah, you can't craft. So the only crafting now is Awakening, and that's been simplified. Or sorry, for weapons. In terms of weapons, Awakening is still like crafting, but to make a weapon, you have to find it or you can buy it. For gold, there's a couple of vendors that take like special currency that you can get weapons from.
Yeah, I think those are main, like the ones that are in the dungeons. Like the random spawn vendors are mostly
that's all cosmetic. Yeah. So there's like the glory vendor, so the hunt master. Once you get to post game, you'll be able to get something called glory from doing bounties and from killing the really powerful mythic bosses, and you can use glory to buy any weapon in the game at basically max level. So
there are actually that's actually not true, because there are a few
except for the 4 new bosses. So there's 4 new hunts that are only there's like 2 tiers of mythics, so you can replay any boss that you fought before at mythic level. And then there's 4 new ones that are mythic only, and those are tougher than any of the vanilla bosses.
So like even the first boss you've ever played in the game, there will be a reason for me to fight that boss on mythic.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way that mythics work, they will anything that they drop. So if they dropped accessories, or like if you want a certain accessory set from the ruins that you really liked, but it's only low level, if you do mythic bosses that are in the ruins, they have a chance to drop those ruins
on a higher level
accessories, but now at way higher level. There's a mythic version of every boss echo that is the same cost to equip, it's just better. Mm-hmm. So there'll be that, and then any weapons that they could drop, they drop at mythic level, so they'll be level 35. The equipment requirements are gone. That's another big change. So if you have a level 28 Tooth and Claw, I'll use Tooth and Claw for you because you like that weapon so much.
Yeah.
And you switch to, you're like, I want to try Silo, and he's level 1. You can equip the level 28 Tooth and Claw and go do
same thing for accessories?
15, 20. Yes,
Yep.
same for accessories.
Nice.
So if you get a level 35 accessory, equip it on your new character, and they'll be OP for their level, and just,
That was another thing that was so frustrating when we were at endgame for current Wayfinder. Me and my friends would be like, well, we'd love to fight this on the hardest difficulty, but then it will drop loot that we can't use, so we have to fight it on a lower difficulty for a chance.
Those fears are all gone also. So that's another thing that's changed. So now the way it works, one is the recommended power level is not a requirement. So you can be power level 300 and go into a 4,000 power level.
I mean, you could do that already.
You could if you were if you were by yourself or with a pre-made group, but not for matchmaking. Now matchmaking is gone, so now that requirement is gone also. Yeah,
and you can hop in, and the scaling is gone too, so that you will be OP.
So so you'll never level down to anything ever anymore, and difficulty spheres are gone.
What if we wanted to?
Heroic.
If you you can't. If you can't level down to something, you can swap your gear if you wanted to be weaker. I'm
assuming there will always be something that is stronger than us, because what happens is also sometimes you're just like, oh, I wanted to fight this at the intended difficulty rather than just destroy this thing. And like in Final Fantasy 14, the concept is called minimum item level. I'm just putting out a suggestion because some players like to have that type of a challenge.
Yeah. We actually talked about just with that is something too that we like some people have brought that up, like, hey, I want to play with my friends. I actually want to de-level myself to be able to have an option. With the time that we had and like everything that we were trying to change, it wasn't on the like must have for launch, but that's definitely something like we're still going to be listening for feedback too. So that is something possible.
So again, 31st is when everybody who owns any version of the founder pack, they're going to be able to jump in, and that's going to be kind of like a preview event. So May 31st, people can hop back in, start giving feedback. If there are any like big, it's going to be basically like giant bugs that we need to fix during that time, kind of make a day one patch. And then June 11th will be resale. So it'll actually go back on sale and a single price, $24.99, and you get the game. And you get everything in it. Like all tens of thousands of dollars that would have been in PX are now just in the game.
But see, you're actually reinforcing one of the things, which is imagine like, for instance, for the launch on June 11th, I'd be like, oh, I was able to convince this friend of mine to start playing, but I will have already played for like, almost 2 weeks. I'm going to be gig overpowered. If I join in my friend's game, just be like, dead. My friend's going to be like, oh, wow, this game sucks.
You could. So for now, what I would say is you could level an alt. You're going to have, unless you've already maxed all your characters, you could play with a lower level,
You do have save files too, so you can restart the game, and there's backup saves and everything like that. Like you can start a new game fresh, and you can do it on a certain difficulty or swap the difficulty.
Oh, so you can just make you can almost just make a new character, basically.
Yeah, all the files are locally saved, so you can just take
it'll take some management because there is one.
Be putting out guides and stuff for it, but you just take the files, literally save it onto your desktop, and then you just have your backup files, whatever you want to do.
So it's not like you can select multiple save files. It's like if you manually mess around with the files. Yeah, okay.
There is backups in like the game menu itself. So if something does happen to your save, and you have to go back to a different backup.
But something that something that we did implement is dungeons will have a level range. So like Ruins 1 is like 1 to 9. So or like content level 1 to 9. So the power level is like 200 to 800, whatever. The way that it works is if you go in with someone that's, let's say you're playing solo, and your average item level is like 4, and the power level is whatever that equals. The stuff you fight in there will be level 4 and will drop level 4 loot. And then if you get a quest, so the dungeon will scale to you within that range, and the loot will update. So if you go back and do Ruins 1 with like a mutator, you'll be fighting tougher stuff, and it will scale up to that range. Yeah. If you bypass that range, it'll stop scaling to you. So you get to flex on stuff too, if you want to like go back and be powerful. One of the things we wanted to avoid is everything always scaling with you, because that means your gear doesn't ever matter, because you could just be, other than hitting the minimum threshold, then at that point, like, who cares if I get a new weapon, because everything else is matching me anyway. So there's a bit of a balance there. And if you are with a friend, they will, and they're level 3 and your like average item level is like 8, you will see level 8 enemies and get level 8 gear, and they will see level 3 enemies and get level 3 gear.
Okay.
So the damage that you're doing is converted basically to, like, they have more health to you, but you're doing a bigger, if you're doing 500 damage and that's 10% of their health, 10% of their health will go away. And they need to only do like, 50 damage to do that same 10%. But so you can play with someone that's a different power level than you, and you'll get appropriate stuff for yourself.
Yeah.
That was something that we were planning to do for live anyway, because the different difficulty spheres just siloed people off. It was hard to matchmake, because I'm doing Ruins 1 Sphere 3 and I'm doing Ruins 1 Sphere 1, and like you can't match with people. So that was something that we were going to do anyway, and it just makes it easier to play with people and get something that fits for, if you're doing co-op.
And I think one thing, because I know you do want to have like the challenging experience as well. I'm so excited people get to Frostmarch for the first time, just because that has been massively expanded, and there is a lot of content in that area, which you need to be, pushing yourself to get strong enough to even attempt. Secret world bosses and all sorts of stuff in there that you really want to kind of dive in and push yourself. And then the mythics again are content, like if you want to push yourself and really get the highest tier loot and gear and push the stats of your character, that's going to give you a challenge as well.
Yeah, so Deepwood Holt, before, when you went there, it was just like a small town hub, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now it's bigger than the Highlands. And there's
3 times larger than the Highlands.
3 times larger than the Highlands. You have your mount now, which will be useful there because it's
Multiple
a lot
mounts.
bigger. Multiple
But
mounts.
you guys also announced a new zone. That's not the new zone, right? That's just
So
that's the new zone for this preview event. There's another new zone that's on that same sort of thing that'll come out once it's released on all platforms.
Yeah, that's down the road. So we have one major content update at least planned, which will be hitting at the end of early access, essentially when it goes on all platforms. So that's going to have another character, new zone, continue this main story quest,
new bosses,
new weapons, everything. So, but Frostmarch now is so in that basically like the 20 to 30 range before, when you got to the Reaver Woods, was basically just a small hub, and then you just went into the dungeons that were there. Now there's a massive overland. There's one of the ways to get good endgame gear is through getting frost marks, which you get from doing events throughout the Frostmarch. There's like new patrol type quests where you just basically find a beacon. It'll give you a random quest around to do, a random event to do. There's some new world bosses. There are lots of secrets to find in one-time chests that you get.
They're almost like
exploring.
There's a lot of like almost villages and kind of like abandoned, decrepit churches and railroads and like mining camps and stuff like that. There's like all these little different kind of biomes in the world. Hidden caves. Oh, and that's another huge thing too. Like even in the Highlands, we've updated. There's actually like you can go into a cave and then like you find at the back there's an actually entrance to like a mini dungeon inside of the Highlands.
So kind of like those. Kind of like those little gloom portals that you would get every now and then, that you would go into a dungeon, fight like a boss.
Like the cellars in like Diablo 4 or something like that. Imagine like larger versions of that you actually get to, in a 3D environment, kind of go through and explore. And some of them will have, again, secret, unique chests, or an interactable item that unlocks something else somewhere else in the map.
Is it like random, or is it if I go to this cave at this level range and my friend goes to the same cave?
Yeah, they're handcrafted. Yeah, so it's very similar to the Highlands, where it is like everything that's going to be in the open worlds is set in stone, and there's hand placed secrets and kind of crafting of like what it looks like. We still use the tile system, and there's a lot more tiles I think as well for the Lost Zones, where those are going to be kind of different every time you go in. So, but the Highlands is an open world kind of like experience.
The gloom portals that you mentioned, those that dungeon actually scales basically 1 to 30. So if you were playing with your friend who is level 1, or probably higher than level 1 by the time they get out of the like tutorial area, but let's say they're level 5 and you're level 30, you can do those gloom dungeons and they'll be 30 for you and 5 for your friend. So you'll be getting relevant stuff going through those.
We've actually added a couple spaces to the void, is what we're calling that now in the kind of the UI.
What's the intended zone progression right now from the zones that we had before? Then we're going to be doing Highlands, I would assume, and we're expected to do like a bunch of dungeons there, and then we're going to go to the Frostmarch. Like, what kind of progression are we going to be looking at?
Yeah, so the main story is largely the same, like the flow. One of the things what we couldn't really do was do much VO. And obviously, localization takes is a giant turnaround time to get, because we have like 11 languages or something. So we had to be very strategic. We smoothed out a lot of stuff that had you going back and forth and like
zoning.
The
whole narrative system has been completely reworked too.
There's a lot of the dialogue in the again, a lot of the UI has been updated, but you can now, when you're talking to an NPC about a quest, rather than skipping through and they say everything, like you'll have different options. So if you want more info, you can choose those, or you can, skip through, like give me the gist and just get through, to get the.
There's like a lot of talking in ear stuff too as well. It's just like you're playing and then they're just giving a little bit more context. Versus like always like freeze framing. Which we got a lot of feedback on.
Yeah, the main like story that you played, like that's largely going to be the similar path through the main story, but the pacing is a lot different, and what you're finding is going to be very, very different.
And then extended as well.
And then there's an actual ending to the story that's added after the Reaver King as well.
So the story ends after the Reaver King?
In this where it is right now, after the Reaver King, there's a bit more, and then it ends there, and then we're going to be doing at least one more content update, which.
There's still, I mean,
it wraps it up.
It wraps it up. The world is,
it stays open for you to
I don't want to spoil it, but it's not going to feel like, well,
that's where the credits are, but there's a lot more game.
Like story arc.
If you think of like Monster Hunter, you get the credits like.
That's a perfect example.
If you play Monster Hunter a lot, you get the credits like 10% through the game in that, because you'll get them and then you play for another 100 hours. So there's. Mythics only unlock after you get the credits, essentially. So
Steve just wins 10 points with the Iron Breakers right there.
You should have seen him at Tokyo. The Monster Hunter Now came out, and all they were doing was just walking around playing Monster Hunter Now.
I was sad when we got back to the States. Nobody plays it here.
And you lost those 10 points. That was really quick.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Because mobile games.
But it was fun in Japan when they were like, everyone was playing, so there's stuff everywhere in Tokyo. It was actually fun.
Oh, and we got to go to the Monster Hunter Cafe.
Yeah, we went to the Monster Hunter Cafe.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, that was a lot of fun. That was a cool trip.
I'm very jealous. But so in terms of the side quests, they're going to be largely kind of the same that we've already done then, I would imagine, except that the rewards are going to be a little bit more rewarding.
Yeah. There's some more, especially in like
Frostmarch. I think there's definitely
there's more quests added.
Yeah, there's definitely more quests added. And then again, with the content that's going to be coming with the full 1.0 release, that's going to have, like, again, another arc of story and another climactic finish with a big boss there that Jake, who's our combat guru, is very excited for the world to get punished by. But yeah, it's enriched. And there's also just like the lore. There's a lot of like these memory kind of fragments that you can actually learn more about, your individual characters just by discovering them out in the wild. And then there's incentives, like you get unique sets by actually going and finding all of those for each of the characters. And you can actually just dive into like their history, very similar to kind of like you were talking about the Venomous anime earlier. Like you actually get context. It's like, what is that story like? Okay, she was like a spy, assassin. Like what's the deal?
Basically,
with, like,
you get to see. They like relive like short memories, and you find those through exploring the world.
Yeah, and
So-
then the voice acting has been expanded. Again, there wasn't so much that we could add, but again, all of the voice acting that we do have has been put into the game. There's branching dialogue paths, so you can actually get more context about the lore and the different factions and the worlds before the gloom and kind of after the gloom, and how all the citizens of Avenor kind of exist together. Again, the plan was originally to have this going forever and like have this huge expanding world that we were going to keep doing it.
We did have
we
to
truncate
to
it,
make a change so that we're like, well, how do we wrap up this story now? Because it needs to have an ending, because we weren't planning it to be over after the Ruined King. But for people that buy the game, and like they would expect there to be an ending.
Yeah.
So we made sure that there was some kind of wrap up to that first story arc, at least.
But basically, the world remains open because, I mean, especially if you
Yes,
consider what I remember of the Reaver King, it's not like he was the main instigator of everything. Gloom.
He's not
There's
the
still,
last
like,
boss. No.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
there's a
a
lot
new-
more to the Gloom than that, which I would imagine you guys could keep continuing to expand on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is like your intended length up until the end of the story, and then let's say just max out one Wayfinder and like 2 weapons or something like that. I don't know if you guys have crunched those numbers yet or not. It's just
I'm probably
I
one
know
of
it's
the
gonna
better
be
people to
something.
ask that
Yeah.
question. I'm getting close to 2,700 hours right now.
Hey, there you
probably, if
go.
I look at my Steam. So I've played the game a little bit, and I probably pester Steve too much for my own good. Thanks for not firing me yet. Just
All
giving
feedback
feedback
is
on
welcome.
anything and everything, and I am much more the hardcore player. So a lot of the heroic tuning, I've been able to kind of dial in and try to get a good sense of. But I'd say a fair estimate, if you're just doing the main story quest, not really doing any side quests, just trying to get through to the end game, try to get to mythics and things like that, I genuinely think, especially if you're playing on a harder difficulty, that could give you a good 50 to 70 hours, genuinely. Playing that. There's actually quite a bit of content.
Wait,
for
what?
that.
50 hours to get
I'd
to the
say so.
Reaver King?
No. Past the Reaver King to get to the mythics. Like if you want to go through and do all the mythics and do all that, like do that.
Yeah.
And then if you want to be a completionist, that will take you over 100 hours.
Yeah, but like, what
all the
about
stuff?
Reaver
about
King
just-
isn't the last boss.
Yeah.
There's stuff after the Reaver King. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Just like Monster, but I'm saying like finishing the story would be how much?
So again, getting
Because
to
my head
I
is
feel like
thinking
if
like 15 hours was what I would
Yeah,
be thinking.
if you beeline the MSQ, you can probably beat it in like 20-ish hours. But if you're playing on like normal,
if you're on normal,
you
sure.
don't need to replay stuff.
Yeah, but for heroic,
Yeah.
like for the harder difficulties, I think you could definitely stretch that out because you're going to need to do some like points where you're going to want to scale up your gear a little bit.
And that's like that's basically you ignored every side quest, you didn't explore any of the overlands. So, but
that if you're being a completionist and you want to get all the different armor sets and you want to get all of the different cosmetics for your house, and the housing is going to expand too on the
we haven't
1.0,
even talked about housing that I want to get into as well.
It's like
But
there is so much to sink your teeth into, and again.
Yeah, but like so finishing
but,
Reaver King on normal, you're saying about 30 hours? That's your intended length?
Reaver King, honestly, you could probably get to Reaver King in like
you just beeline
Reaver King. Yeah, you could get to Reaver King in probably 12 hours.
See that's
like, if you're
that's the
speedrunning,
estimate that I had, like 15 hours, like give or take. Because from what I can remember, to get to Reaver King, especially if you guys streamlined the progression a little bit, that's pretty much what I would expect. But then after Reaver King, there's going to be endgame. There's going to be a lot more stuff to do to get up to the mythics. You're saying to properly be doing mythic content with one Wayfinder, you're talking about 50 hours, give or take?
So yeah, and in I think the big part of the MSQ, so a lot of, and Steve was saying it earlier, like people who've been founders are going to recognize a lot of the story getting up into Frostmarch. But once you get to Frostmarch, it's actually pretty different. Like there's a lot of expanded things where the MSQ and working with Greymorn and the other kind of NPCs in that area, you're actually exploring the overland itself, and a lot of the quest has been integrated into that, and that's going to take a big chunk of change. And that space in itself, like people are going to want to just go. It's almost like kind of Witcher 3, you jumping in there, and there's just like so much stuff to go do and kind of explore and sink your teeth into. So I can definitely see people doing that, even if it's not direct quest progress, just wanting to go find cool little events that spawn and all sorts of things. But yeah, I mean, if you're just doing pretty key to that, I think there's how many hours are there after Rune King just for quests? Like,
the MSQ. So there's once you finish the story, if you beeline to it to do mythics, you're gonna have to go do a bunch of other stuff. So one of the other things that we added was Wayfinder rank. Yeah. So you might hit 30 with Wingrave like really quick, and then your Wayfinder rank will be like 10 or level 11. There's a whole new talent system. So as you level up any character, your Wayfinder rank goes up, and it gives power to all your Wayfinders. So let's say you max out Wingrave, and now you start Grendel because he's the new awesome character. He's going to be level 1, but he's also Wayfinder rank 11.
He'll never be level 1, actually.
So it's like
that's true. He'll start at like I think 8 or so.
So it's kind of like a Paragon system almost.
Sort of. It benefits every all of your characters. So every time your Wayfinder rank goes up, you get a bunch of passive, we call them accolades. So you can see on the track like, oh, at this one, all of my weapons are now more powerful just across the board. And then you also get a talent point for every Wayfinder rank, and that's where you can go into your talent trees for every character and get talents, and that can change your build a lot. So when you're doing mythics, we're expecting that you have a bunch of Wayfinder rank. So you could just play Wingrave forever and just you're level 30 and you're just doing stuff and you're getting Wayfinder rank still. Yeah. But you can also level up new characters.
I might have been overzealous. I think probably like 30 hours is pretty fair for just like the MSQ getting through all that stuff. But then if to really sink your teeth in, I was thinking
if you didn't read everything, it'll take longer. Like if you actually listen to them talk, if you're just like I'm speedrunning and spamming through everything, you can get through quicker. Because there's a lot of VO and dialogue, and there's a ton to explore. So it's
it's hard to say. But the thing is, again,
it all depends.
Fun after nearly 3,000 hours.
Yeah, it all obviously depends. It all obviously depends on like what people want to get out of it. It's the same thing with Monster Hunter. You can get to the ending fairly fast, but then if you actually want to do a proper build and min max and do stuff like that, that's going to take considerably longer.
I mean, there's significantly more content than there is in the live version of the game right now, and there are many players that have hundreds and hours and thousands of hours and they're just going to be there's actual like end game systems now, whereas before it was still like kind of in the works.
And if you play on heroic difficulty, then you will likely you'll hit some walls where you need to like, okay, I need to update my accessories, I need to go make some consumables.
You need to go
consumables now have 30-minute durations, and you can have one offensive and one defensive buff active at a time, and you get a small XP bonus also during that duration.
So that's actually one of the things that was kind of weird in the first game, because I was never able to figure out if you guys intended it to be a consumable or if it was an equipable
They're actual
item.
Consumables now. Yeah. So now you will find
it didn't consume back then.
Yes.
It was weird.
Hashtag feature.
So they are actual consumables. You can actually find them, so you might open a chest and get, I got a buff consumable. And
do you need to craft them, or do you just buy them for like a currency?
You can you can both, and you can find them too. So you might loot some while you're out in the world as well.
But once you find the recipe, you have the recipe, and you can just go to Venge. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited for Venge's voice acting. All the barks and stuff are out too, so your Wayfinders are actually some of the voice acting stuff, they interact with the
Wayfinders
too,
are
cool. So
talk more now too, so while you're in combat.
And the NPCs too. So it feels like a flushed out RPG now versus before it was like, an early access live service game. Now it feels like a dungeon crawler RPG story.
So we used to get a lot of the rewards, like for cosmetic stuff and whatnot, from those season passes, the tower things. Mm-hmm. Are those still in the game in any form? Because I'm assuming there's no season pass.
Yes. So there are 2 towers, but you just get the keys for playing, and you don't have to buy them. They're just part of the game. Basically, it's just an extra loot for rewards. If we were starting from scratch, we wouldn't have made them, but they were there, and
so there's going to be there.
There's items in
and
it,
it's
so
cool.
they're
And
there.
they're fun to progress, and
Yeah.
like I think the concept of it as like a alternative to a battle pass was a really cool way of doing it. But again, it's a cool way of getting more targeted.
There's basically
like, hey, I really want to go get this sword skin, so I can work my way up that.
Actually, one of the
get
cool
that.
things that I liked about those was getting those loading screens that you could customize the loading screens.
Yeah.
Oh, random loading screen art. It's
Yeah.
in.
You
You
can-
can actually have a
there's a
rotated
random
selection. You're
selection,
not
yeah.
locked into a single one.
No. I just
Hashtag
want
one of the best features.
Wingrave 24/7. What are you talking
You
about?
can also do that.
You could
yeah.
do that too.
So there's basically two towers now essentially, because there's the one that was going to come with Grendel, and so when you get a key, you can use it on either tower. There's 200 rooms to unlock. So as you're playing, you're getting the reward tower XP, and you get keys, and then you can use them for whatever tower, and just 200
Yeah.
extra things to unlock while you play. No microtransactions to buy. If you have the game, you have both towers, and that's it. Like there's
You do technically get the reward tower compass, the enchanted compass, if you had the exalted pod.
right.
So you
that's
still get a
there, yeah.
benefit there.
You,
Yeah,
le-
again,
you
it's
level
not-
up a
it's
little
not-
bit
it's not a paid
quicker
thing.
on the tower.
Like that's the thing. It's just, and tell me if we're crazy, but our sentiment is just the entire kind of gaming community is a little bit over MTX and live service, and just like always having to log in to get daily rewards or anything like that. And we're just like, no, we're gonna kind of go back to basics, take it back to the 90s, and just like, here's almost a box product, and then you just get everything right there. And however you want to deal with it, it's yours. Go wild, have fun. It's your sandbox.
I mean,
that's kind of what we want to do.
I have my own biases, of course, so I can't speak for absolutely everyone, but I can speak for what I usually see in my community, and nobody wants to deal with microtransactions. Like, I don't know if you've seen what happened with the launch of Dragon's Dogma 2, for instance, wherein, like, for instance, I received the review copy, but nobody told me about there were going to be microtransactions. And then when microtransactions were announced, people went completely insane. They were just like, what the hell is this? Why do we have microtransactions on this single player game? This makes absolutely no sense. So yeah, people definitely don't want to deal with microtransactions right now. In a lot of ways, a lot of people don't even want to deal with live services, but obviously, from some of the feedback that I've seen that you guys have received, clearly there were some people there that wanted it to be an MMO, and I understand that. I just happen not to be one of those people. So it's like, to me, all of the changes that we've been talking about so far, everything sounds way cooler because there's still targeted loot, which is something super important for me. I don't want to be like trying to farm something and having it never drop, even though you guys had targeted loot before, and that friggin' Vrykeen boss or whatever the name was that I had to kill literally over 100 times, and I still didn't get all the silo essences or whatever that he was supposed to drop, but it just speaks more to me. But now the question is also, where do you guys see it going to the future? Like, what are your plans for it? Because obviously now it's a product, and it gets out there and it's done. You have one more zone that is already planned, that you guys are already working on, that you will be delivering before the period of the early access. But what are you thinking about in the future? Are you just like, okay, this is it, the game's done, we're moving on? Or if the game is successful enough and if enough people buy the game, you're going to be like, hey, actually, we could maybe put in some more stuff?
Yeah, so what we would love is we can't, like, as a studio, to stay alive, we can't just wait around and hope that it goes well. So we are starting work and rolling people off as time allows to start getting something else up and running. What we would love, because we are just the safety of being multi-project, which we've done before with Battle Chasers. We started Darksiders while we were wrapping up Battle Chasers. You have to have something else for the team to roll onto, or else it just doesn't work. While we were working on Darksiders, we started Ruin King, and at one point we had Wayfinder starting as Darksiders wrapping. So we had 3 projects going at once, but always having something because the most important thing for us as a studio is to keep everybody together. Like, we don't want to let people go. We don't want to be like, oh, well, we finished this, so half the team's gone because we don't
time
need
to get
you
rid
right
of a
now.
couple
We'll
of
just hire up later.
concept
Yeah,
artists because you've already done the concept art. Time to leave.
Yeah, so like we want to make sure there's stuff for everyone to work on. We can't with Wayfinder is a huge unknown. I have no idea how people are going to receive it. I think it's awesome, but also like
it's going to be up to the market.
Yeah,
is what it comes down to.
So what we would love
Yeah.
is, you know, it does well. We have even if we get another project started, we have a group of people that can keep Wayfinder going and working on, you know, DLC or updates or whatever it is. Right now, there's no paid DLCs planned, but we're definitely going to be fixing bugs, and you know, if there's a lot of feedback, we're going to be fixing stuff as just updates. The update that's coming with the new zone and new character and stuff. That's if you have the game. If you are a founder, you don't pay anything. It's coming to you free. If you weren't a founder and you buy the game, you're going to get that. It's part of the. It's just part of the price,
package.
the one price
Yeah.
you pay. Yeah. In the future, if it does really well, you know, we'd have to figure out what the best business case, if it's DLC and like figuring out maybe founders get deal. You know, if you got the Exalted pack, you get every DLC we ever make for free. Like we'll try and find a way to get that to you. If we do a paid DLC for a small price or whatever makes sense, because we don't have microtransactions. So, you know, updating forever if the audience isn't growing, you know, it's going to be hemorrhaging money too. Like there's the business case for it. So, but we don't know. So it's going to depend on how well it does.
The thing for me is I'm not saying updated forever because I'm actually a big apologist, and a lot of people don't like it when I say stuff like that. But I like that. I like video games that I can play, and then they get support for a couple of months, and then they end, and the studio moves on to something else. I actually like that because I think studios get more creativity out of it because they learn from the previous project and then they move on to the new project. It's really exciting. Like very good examples of that would be From Software with a lot of the stuff that they do, and Capcom with the Monster Hunter series, because they're like, hey, we make this, we support it for a while, then we make the Ultimate Edition, whatever, we support that for a while, and then we move on and we make the next one. And I actually like that more because it allows you to just, you know, now we take a break. And now this thing that you guys are making, you're making a new one, and now it's fresh and it's really cool. So that's kind of the way that I look at it. But I know that a lot of people are like, no, I want Wayfinder to be supported forever. Me, it's like I'm just looking to have it be as complete as possible. And that's all I really want. If anything, one of the things that I would love you guys to do is a physical version, because I'm sucker for physical versions. But yeah, that's going to be rough in this market.
Yeah.
You should talk to Ryan about that.
Hey, I loved, to me, like I was really sad when they stopped making instruction manuals.
Yeah.
My ritual as a kid was I would open it, read the entire, first you got to smell the instruction manual because it smells really good. Yes.
New
the smell
game
of an
smell.
instruction manual, nothing matches it. And then read the entire manual and then play. And then it started to get to where it's like there's a pamphlet or a leaflet, and it's like, what is this? And then now I'm all digital. I don't buy physical anymore. I just
Maybe you don't even have a CD drive if you wanted to.
And then if in Battle Chasers we actually like did an homage. Well, we actually had a printed manual, and then we had in the game we had like a manual with the notes. Even though it's digital and it's on your screen, we had a little notes section in the back as an homage to the physical manuals that we all miss. But yeah, to answer your question, a lot of it's going to depend on how well it does and what people are asking for. If the audience explodes and people want more, we definitely want to be able to.
We love the world.
That,
like so that's the thing that the team. And that's one of the reasons that was so exciting to make this stay alive. And it's just new form, and it's rise from the ashes. This is it. The world we were thinking of building was expansive. Like it's a whole planet to explore, and gods, and who the creators are, and these mysteries, and just like what is the gloom, like why is it here? There's a lot of things that we're trying to put a bow on, and something like give some answers to people that really do care about the lore and love the world that we've been building. But there's still so many open doors.
There'll be a lot
we could explore, but we can't make promises. We're not going to say like yes, and we're going to keep doing this and that, and just be empty promises. It's just like, we're putting a game out there what we think is an incredibly fair price for new people coming in. We're trying to do good by the people that already spent money. Even we didn't get the profits for it, but we still want to make sure that they have a great experience for what they spent. And we can put our stamp of approval on it. Like, this is an airship game. This is something that we're proud of. That's out there. It's going to be there forever. And if people have the demand and like, yes, we want more content. Yes, we'll support it. And it grows into something that, again, this is a pretty unique situation. I don't know. Can you think of any other game that has done the exact same
No,
thing?
I mean, moving
But
from live service back into not live service. I know
lots that gone the other way, but I don't know about going back. So.
Yeah, that I don't think I've seen that very often, which is
so we don't have a business case for it. So
it will be.
We'll find out. You tell us, everybody who's watching right now. Come on, this might be, you're watching this video 5 years into the future. You tell us. Put us in the comments. Follow, subscribe.
When you guys win a bunch of awards and stuff, oh man, that was really good decisions. 5 years into the future, that'd be fantastic. I'd love to see it succeed because, like I said, I like the game. I think it's a ton of fun. Now, I was looking over my notes here, and I noticed I forgot to ask one thing. So there's multiple difficulties. Is there an advantage to playing on a harder difficulty, or is it just it's just harder? Because
it's harder. So
sometimes you get extra XP or extra loot modifiers, stuff like that.
We avoided that. So one of the things that one of the requirements for it was it needs to be. We tried to keep it pretty simple and not have a lot of, with the how quickly we've turned this around is kind of mind-boggling. The team is amazing because we, started working on this in February, and the amount of changes are astronomical. We knew that there's going to be a lot of bugs and stuff to fix just with how many things are changing. We needed to make sure we didn't introduce a lot of extra complexity too on top of just trying to make this thing work. So difficulties was definitely something we know we wanted. There's no achievements tied to it. One of the reasons being that adds wrinkles where it's hey, let's say there's an achievement for, beating the game on heroic, and you join your friend's game who is in story mode, and now you're technically playing in story. So now we invalidate your heroic achievement, and now that's a customer service ticket, which we don't have.
Yeah.
So there's this okay, step one is adding difficulties. Maybe in the future, if people are hey, we really want it, we can find some way that will be safe and bug free to do. Because our main concern was transforming the game into the difficulties was a cherry on top, where it's awesome, we were able to get this in. It's safe. You can swap it mid run. Honestly, it's works pretty well. So even if you're mid run, you can swap it to story mode. Really, it's and because it's not live service, you're basically robbing yourself of the experience. If you really don't care and you're I just hate this boss, I'm going to beat it on story and then go back to heroic, whatever, you do you. That's it's for you to experience how you want. But for when I played Dark Souls, I always do Deprived or the Wretch or whatever, and I throw my weapon away and go barefisted until I find a weapon. That's how I like to play. So I'm gonna just play on heroic, and if I hit a wall, I'm just gonna go update my gear, update my builds. Be hey, this boss, I need to up my break power, or they're destroying me with magic damage. I'm gonna up my magic defense. By the way, damage numbers now have colors, so if it's magic damage or physical that's hitting you, or if it's your ability power or weapon power. So some of the fly text has been updated and stuff as well.
Also,
a lot of the stat calculations are updated.
Knowing when your rush echoes are off cooldown or whatever, you have a live kind of tracker of just here are all your passives that you've stacked up and if they're ready or not.
But so the short answer, we also didn't want to do one of the problems we had in Battle Chasers. We had New Game Plus, and the game's a lot harder, but it scaled the content, but also what they dropped. And so it was really hard up front, and then you just got really good gear, and then it was even again. We don't want, if you want to play heroic, it's supposed to be hard. We don't want you to get better loot for playing harder, and then it becomes easier. We're leaving it. There's no reward for doing it on heroic versus normal. It's pick what you have fun with, and what challenge that you want.
There's 3 difficulties, right?
4. So there's story, normal, challenging, and heroic. Default is normal. But.
Yeah. One of the things then, so the mythic encounters, they will also be affected by the difficulty modifiers.
Yes.
Okay. So story mythic is really easier than heroic mythic. Okay.
Right. If you want to, for people that want, there's a lot of cool stuff to unlock in the mythics, like new legendary armor sets. And if you want to experience it and you're just not great at action game, it's a very skill-based game. So if you're not great at them and you want to see all that content, you could play on story.
And then as you get stronger, then you can go, hey, maybe I'll try normal. I'm like, I've gotten stronger. Like this was kicking my butt before, but now I've gotten some better gear, and then you can kind of push yourself through the tiers. It's giving players agency. Like, we could see the argument of like, hey, I want to get rewarded for the things, but the grind and everything in the game has been reduced so much that you don't really need it. Like you're gonna get everything that you need just play the game and just kind of experience it, and that makes it a lot easier to kind of just balance like how quickly you do get all the resources.
The difficulty there is more for like it's pure. You can't make everyone happy with a single difficulty. It's just not possible. Like you get it's way too easy, it's way too hard, and then some are like, no, it's perfect, and like you can change it, and you make one group happy, and you make the other group really mad. So like, difficulties is just for.
I'm weird. I'm weird about it. I personally I want one difficulty. Make it as challenging as it can possibly be without being too much, and that's the difficulty. That's the way that I personally like to play. So I usually prefer games that have one difficulty because a lot of times what ends up
playing it the way I do.
I
hope
heroic
and just don't touch it.
I hope, because there's a lot of games that when you get to the highest difficulty, the problem is like, okay, now everything's just an HP sponge, and it's not even challenging. It's just boring because you're just sitting there doing the same thing for 10 minutes. It's like,
so the higher difficulties, the enemies will be tougher. They will have more health. They'll be harder to break. Breaking them will actually mean a lot more because they have more health. They hit you harder. More things can attack you at once. That's probably the biggest thing, is the number of things that can attack you at once. If you're fighting something and you get swarmed by a lot of stuff, you're going to get your butt kicked on heroic versus normal or story mode. Story mode has less things that can attack you at once. So there is more than just they have more health and do more damage.
And you just got to be, I think that's the nice thing about how robust our combat system is. You were talking about earlier about just you press the things that they cool down. They're like, no, if you want to play in heroic, you need to utilize the counters. You need to utilize your iframes. You need to watch how much stamina you have. You can't just be full aggressive the whole time. You got to watch out. Like, okay, this moveset's coming up. I got to get ready for this.
If you're on story, you can probably button mash your way through a lot of it.
Yeah.
If you're on heroic, you will get
you need to use the. You need to know what the mechanics are and use them.
And your gear is way more important on heroic because there's, if you're skilled enough, you could never get hit, and then your health doesn't matter.
Just use a shotgun.
But, if you get one shot by something, then that's kind of, did we get the rifle changes in live?
Yeah.
Like the shotguns doing like.
We did a patch, the last patch with changing kind of giving the shotguns more of the break damage. And,
I remember that I broke Venomous's weapon, and Alex kept telling me, "Oh, we fixed it now," and I was like, "No, you didn't."
No, well, you were doing a weird one, which is like you do shoot one bullet and then you reload, and then all your bullets are shooting like you can shoot a gun. I'm like, thanks, Rurikhan. Appreciate you. We fixed one of them.
I broke the game.
Rifles have gone through a bunch of updates.
That is fixed now, just so you know.
I'll have to check for myself, Alex.
Yep. Can't trust
Let
me
us
anymore.
know if it's still there.
It's not. I've tested that one specifically.
That was so fun. But yeah, that's all I had. I don't know if I want to give you guys a last word in case you want to say something to all the players out there that are excited for Wayfinders, or even those that are not super excited for Wayfinders. Anything you guys would like to mention?
I would love for you to not call it Wayfinders. Call it Wayfinder.
Wait, I said Wayfinder. Wait, I said Wayfinders.
We'll find out. It's on record. We're going to be able to click back, press J
I didn't say Wayfinders, if that's what you mean.
No, but that would make sense. That's the thing.
No, but what do you mean? What do you mean Wayfinders is wrong? What do you mean? I'm confused.
There's Wayfinders is not plural. You're not saying plural.
Wayfinder, one Wayfinder.
No,
The
I
title-
said Wayfinders. No, I
see,
said.
you did it again.
Okay, I don't know what's going, but I said people Wayfinder fans or something like that. I don't know.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
You made me forget what I was gonna say. Oh, yeah, I think for me, like, I know that. So everyone who has a Founders Pack, like, it's in their library. You can try it out. It doesn't cost anything. You might enjoy it more, even if you're not happy with having to start over or what. It's there. Give it a shot. And
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest tell. Like, we get it, I think, is the most important thing that we're trying to just show the world. Contact us. You could jump in the Discord if you have questions. I'll be right there. Saul will be right there. A lot of people on the team will be in there to kind of answer your questions and be a real, we're people. We're working. We're pouring our hearts and souls into this to give people a good experience. And I know we faced the review bombs like when the news broke from the servers, and we're still, we're owning up to that. We're not just like resetting all the reviews once this game comes out. Like, all that haunting past is still there haunting us. So if you did have a bad experience, when you first kind of played the game, we'd humbly ask, give it another go. It's going to be a completely different experience, and it would mean the world to us if you would judge us. Again, it doesn't have to be only good reviews. Like, just judge us based off of the work and what it is today, or whenever you play it, not based off of the drama of the past. We would just love for people just to tell us what they genuinely think of the game itself. And so one that we hopefully in the short term we can make some changes and fix it. But ultimately, we just will love to get judged for what we've delivered, rather than any of the drama of the past.
What's the pricing structure going to be right now for because I'm assuming there's going to be a price during the early access, and then that's going to change when you go into full release?
Yeah, so we're still trying to finalize like what the actual 1.0 price is going to be. It's not going to be a huge jump, but it's going to be $24.99 on June 11th is when it's going to be put back on sale for Steam. It's going to be a little bit of time. We're still working with getting all the publishing rights still over to Sony and PlayStation. So it's going to be a little bit longer before we can get Echoes onto PlayStation. And then after, but it will be before the 1.0 release, and that's when it's going to be coming to Xbox as well.
So it's going to be PC, PS5, and Xbox.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, so the PS4 version is just it's gone.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
yeah. The optimization is a huge struggle with.
Yeah, I can imagine it was even rough on PS5 in
pushed,
certain.
Yeah, which we've done an insane amount of work on the optimization, and even the fact that it is local now, it's going to be night and day for
Steam
a lot
Deck
of the experience.
Works really well.
Yeah, we're getting Steam verified in the process of doing that. We're actually probably.
You guys already tested Steam Deck?
Tomorrow. Oh yeah, we're testing it every day. So yeah, we're in the process of getting Steam verified right now, and we're hoping to have that for at least the June 11th launch, but hopefully by the 31st. And then we're. All players who have PS4 are getting upgraded for free to PS5. I know that's not helpful for people who don't have PS5s and don't plan on getting one, but hopefully they will soon, and then they'll have a great game waiting for them.
Is there
they do? But,
is there a way that you can have a path to go from PS4 to PC? I know I'm just throwing wrenches in the machinery. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, again, it's super hard with the verification because all of the cross-platform and everything was through like the DE accounts, so we don't have access to those anymore. So it's just impossible to figure out all the different edge cases. I mean, we're working to try to help out as many people as we can, and if you have a weird edge case, like reach out. I will personally.
I can vouch for Alex being reachable on Discord. I can vouch for that. So
for better or worse. And then but in the meantime, before it's fully released on the PlayStation family, it will be still playable for all PS4 users, all PS5 users. In the meantime, just as it is today, you can still do all the live experience as much as you'd like to. But once we do transition to Wayfinder Echoes and get the 1 out there, that's it. It's out there in the world. People can do with what they wish with it, and We really do. It would mean it. The team, it's like the credit cannot go to the hours, the talent, and just the heart and soul that they poured into this. And it's been a tough journey to get here, and we're trying to do the right thing in a world where it's been really rough for game studios and just gamers in general have been kind of getting taken advantage of in a lot of ways, and we're just trying to do the right thing.
Yep.
So if you can update your reviews to be honest, whether you like it or not, just make it reflective of now.
Yeah, and we've all played games that were live at one point and then go away, and that's the worst case. And so
RIP
that's
Wildstar.
what we really wanted to avoid is there's something there to play.
This is a Wildstar
Nice.
shirt, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, yeah, this is
And I mean, this is something that, a lot of people, a lot of times it's like, why not have an offline mode? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's not really reasonable. And it's like, well, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So this is,
it's uncharted territory again.
Like I
think
said-
someone gave a comment of Kingdoms of Amalur apparently was like an MMO
King,
originally.
King,
and
no,
transitioned
Kingdoms
to-
of Amalur was supposed to be an MMO,
Yeah,
but it
never
never,
made
it
it
never,
to
it never was an MMO. It became a single player, and they were thinking about potentially still making an MMO out of it after the single player version came out, but I don't think it ever materialized.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, it's just a uncharted territory. So we don't know what's going to happen, but we're trying to be fair. If you guys can, be fair as well, that'd mean the world to us.
And I'm
we can
sure
just
that-
keep making.
I'm sure that Alex is gonna be checking out the comments on this video, so feel free to leave feedback and whatnot. But thank you guys very much for taking the time and on such short notice as well. I really appreciate the time you guys gave me. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode of Cast as well. If you guys did, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. Also, if you were one of the founders of Wayfinder, be sure to check out the update that's going to be going live. When is it? The 31st of May?
31st.
31st.
Yeah,
May
31st of May.
It's
I will be covering it, streaming
8
it,
business
doing
days
all
from
the
today.
things.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm hyped, but we'll see. We'll see you guys on the next one. Stay strong.
I'd love
Stay
to
safe.
hop in and play with you.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Peace
Yeah.
out.
Take care.